The Storm Shadow missile is a long-range cruise missile that has been manufactured in a joint venture between the UK, which is the United Kingdom, Britain, right, and France. The range of the Storm Shadow missile sits at about 560 kilometers, right? So it can travel at a distance of about 560 kilometers. The Storm Shadow missile is classified as a subsonic missile, basically meaning that it travels with speeds that are below the speed of sound, or that are below the sound barrier, right? Which sits at about Mach 0.95, right? Which is about 323 meters per second. The Storm Shadow missile is an air-launched missile, right? And has a warhead weight that is about 450 kilograms. Now, the Storm Shadow missile is particularly used for high-value targets. Targets like command and control centers, centers like ammunitions depots, centers like reinforced underground bunkers. It is also used to target military bases, be it air bases or normal military bases. And it is also used to target infrastructure. So things like dams, bridges, I would say skyscrapers, or that would be tall buildings, or power stations, or water purification infrastructure, or things like that. You can include oil rigs, airports. So this is used for high value targets. Now, okay, when we speak of the Storm Shadow missile, right, we are fundamentally speaking of the United Kingdom part of the missile, right, which I have just mentioned now. Now, the French version of the Storm Shadow missile is basically known as the Scalp, right? The Scalp, e.g., long range cruise missile, right? Now, everything with the Scalp, e.g., cruise missile, long range cruise missile, is similar to the Storm Shadow missile. So it has a similar warhead weight, which sits at about 450 kilograms, right? And it has a similar speed. It travels at a similar speed, which sits at about Mach 0.95, which is about 323 meters per second, right? It is also an air-launched long-range cruise missile. But the only major difference between the Storm Shadow missile and the Scalp EG missile is the range, or the distance at which it can travel, right? As mentioned, the Storm Shadow can travel a distance of about 560 kilometers, right? But the Scalp EG, right, a long range cruise missile, can travel a range of between 250 kilometers to about 400 kilometers. So the maximum distance that the Scalp EG can travel is about 400 kilometers. So that's the only difference between the Storm Shadow missile and the Scalp EG missile, is the range at which they travel.